like SpongeBob, and I like 3D platformers. So when I heard there was gonna be a remake of a beloved 3D SpongeBob collectathon, I knew I had to get familiar with the source material. And now, 1 year later, Spongebob Squarepants Battle for Bikini Bottom is one of my favorite games of all time. So now when the remake has finally been released, it was just a matter of time until I bought it for the Switch and talked about it. It's a tale as old as time. Plankton has created a robot army. Go and stop him. It's a very bare bones story, but it really doesn't need to be anything more. In the story, you play as SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy, and they all got their own fairly unique control scheme. SpongeBob, as the main character, has the most versatile moveset, with all his attacks themed around bubbles. Patrick is your average 3D platformer character that can carry around items, and his gameplay feels more puzzle focused compared to the others. Sandy uses her lasso to hover in the air and to swing from these conveniently placed Texas symbols, and all of this leads to a more platforming focused gameplay with her. And in the original game, she was the most fun to play as in my opinion, but sadly she's the character that has been affected the most by the remake's new physics. In the original game, her lasso felt smooth as butter to use, but now it feels a little mediocre. Since this is a full-on remake with a new engine, everything can't be the same. And this affects all the playable characters because they feel noticeably stiffer compared to the original game. But just because it feels different, that doesn't have to be a bad thing. And if you haven't played the original, you aren't gonna notice anything weird. Okay, before I talk about some real criticism, I'm gonna be nitpicking just a little. They removed this picture from SpongeBob's house and replaced it with some random screenshot from the show. They removed this charming red outline from the hub world but kept it in downtown Bikini Bottom. Most of the time Patrick doesn't look pink enough. They weren't able to get Clancy Brown back to voice Mr. Krabs because he's the real voice actor, but they didn't have him in the original game. They seem to have intentionally removed some of the fun details in some of the areas of the game. They removed this from Patrick's house. Larry's way too small compared to the other characters, and there is no way to make the camera zoom in a little on your character. Okay, this game has an amazing art style. You can't tell me otherwise. And for the most part, this game looks pretty good on the Nintendo Switch, even though the resolution is pretty bad. I hope they can fix that in a patch. But there's a specific level where the graphics gets unacceptable. Sand Mountain. Just look at this! I don't know if a simple patch can fix this. At least the level itself is pretty fun, but not as good as the original. Okay, so in the game there is a movie theater. You need to pay 40,000 shiny objects to enter. In the original game, it was a really cool room that showed concept art. But in the new version, they just show a bunch of random screenshots of the game. Are you telling me there were no pieces of concept art created for the remake? Such a waste of potential. While replaying one of the levels, I went out of bounds by mistake. I don't really have anything to say regarding that, just thought I'd mention it. On the Switch, the controls are pretty weird. You attack on the Y button and jump on the A button. But this isn't a big deal, because it's pretty easy to adapt to this. I only mention it because it's different on the PS4. Because on the PS4, you jump on the X button and attack on the square button. And in my opinion, that is a more comfortable control scheme. I first thought it was like this because they were trying to emulate the controls of the GameCube on Switch, but no, because you jump on the A button on that and attack with B. So why this was done, I have no idea, and there is no way to remap the buttons in the game. My idea of a solution for this is by having multiple presets in the options menu. Have one called Rehydrated controls, where you jump on the B button and attack with Y button, and have another called GC controls that have the exact same as the GameCube version. So now if somebody plays the game with a GameCube controller, they can have a similar experience to the original game. Most of my problems are derived from the fact that I'm playing the Switch version of the game. And some people are gonna think that it's my own fault for picking that version. But I think that most people are gonna buy the version on Switch, so I feel like I need to mention it at least. Now with the ugly stuff out of the way. This game is amazing! It feels like a playable version of the show, full with references to it, like Primitive Sponge, and I already know somebody's gonna be complaining about how adding memes to remakes ruins the original creator's intent. But the joke's on you, because that was in the original game. Heavy Iron Studios predicted the meme. But yes, they did add some modern memes, and I liked them. Except the dab. Every level is in some way based on something from the show. Stuff like Goo Lagoon, the Mermalayer, Kelp Forest, and more. These levels are so much fun to traverse, with challenging but not frustrating platforming challenges. And for the price of $30, I'd say that this is a must-buy for any SpongeBob or platformer fan. When this remake was announced, there were some people that were maybe confused that a SpongeBob game was getting remade instead of any other 3D platformer from the same era. But being a licensed game doesn't make it less of a game. And Battle for Bikini Bottom deserves to be regarded as one of the greatest 3D platformers of all time, and the remake deserves as much respect as any other 3D platformer remake. Spongebob Squarepants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated gets a 8 out of 10 M&Ms. Yeah, I also tried that multiplayer thing with my brother, and yeah, it's garbage.